The Minoan Pompeii, the advanced city buried alive 3,600 years ago. Where did the people go? We all know the story of Pompeii. The volcano erupted and the people were frozen in ash, mothers holding children, dogs curled up in fear. It is a tragedy we can see. But on the island of Santorini, there is a city older and richer than Pompeii. It too was buried by a volcano. It too was preserved perfectly for thousands of years. But when we dug it up, we found nothing. The houses were there. The pots were there. The meals were half-cooked. But the people were gone. Not a single skeleton. No gold. No valuables. It was a ghost town before it was buried. They knew it was coming. They packed up. They ran. But the question that haunts archaeologists is, where did they run to? Because they never show up in history again. Did they escape? Or did something even worse than the volcano catch them? Intro. Welcome to Akrotiri. 3,600 years ago, this wasn't just a city, it was the center of the world. Located on the island of Thera, now known as Santorini, it was the jewel of the Minoan civilization. They had multi-story buildings, indoor toilets, and a trading empire that spanned the Mediterranean. Then the island ripped itself apart. The Thera eruption was one of the largest volcanic events in the history of our planet. It blew a hole in the earth so big it created the Santorini caldera we see today. The city was swallowed by ash, hidden for 3 millennia. When it was finally found in 1967, it promised to solve the mystery of the lost continent of Atlantis. Instead, it gave us a new mystery, the case of the missing population. Today we are walking the streets of the Minoan Pompeii to find out what happened to the people who vanished into thin air. The technology in this city was so advanced that Europe wouldn't see indoor plumbing again for thousands of years. If you love discovering ancient civilizations that were ahead of their time, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Adventure Hidden because we are digging deep into the volcanic ash. Chapter 1: The Manhattan of the Bronze Age. To understand the tragedy, you have to understand what was lost. Akrotiri wasn't a primitive village. In 1650 BC, it was more advanced than London or Paris would be in 1700 AD. The architecture. While most of the world was living in mud huts, the people of Akrotiri were living in 3- and 4-story stone buildings. The Zest 3. This massive building is a prime example. It had grand staircases, huge windows for light, and intricate design. The plumbing, this is the shocker. Archaeologists found clay pipes running inside the walls. They had indoor toilets that flushed into a sophisticated sewer system beneath the streets. They had hot and cold running water systems using geothermal vents. This was modern living 3,600 years ago. The art, the frescoes, the walls were covered in stunning frescoes that survived the volcano. The Blue Monkeys shows a connection to exotic trade. The Boxing Boys shows their love for sport. The Flotilla fresco depicts a massive, wealthy fleet of ships. This confirms they were the masters of the sea. The Cliffhanger, they were rich, comfortable, and powerful. They thought they were invincible. But the ground beneath their feet was waking up. And when the beast woke up, no amount of money could save them. Chapter 2: The Apocalyptic Warning. Unlike Pompeii, where the eruption was sudden, Akrotiri got a warning. But was it a blessing or a prolonged torture? The warning: tremors. Archaeological evidence shows that weeks or perhaps months before the final explosion, a massive precursor earthquake hit the city. We see walls that had collapsed and were partially cleared by the residents. We see piles of rubble neatly stacked on the streets. The reconstruction. The people didn't flee immediately. They stayed. They started to rebuild. They set up temporary kitchens outside their damaged homes. They thought the worst was over. The calm before the storm. Then something terrified them. We don't know exactly what. Perhaps the wells dried up or sulfurous gas began to leak from the ground. But suddenly all reconstruction stopped. Tools were dropped. Paint pots were left open. The evacuation. This is the key difference. They had time. They took their gold. They took their jewelry. They took their families. They marched down to the harbor and boarded their massive fleet. They left the city empty, hoping to return when the mountain calmed down. They had no idea they were leaving forever. Chapter 2: the apocalyptic warning. Unlike Pompeii, where the eruption was sudden, Akrotiri got a warning. But was it a blessing or a prolonged torture? The warning tremors. Archaeological evidence shows that weeks or perhaps months before the final explosion, a massive precursor earthquake hit the city. We see walls that had collapsed and were partially cleared by the residents. We see piles of rubble neatly stacked on the streets. The reconstruction. The people didn't flee immediately. They stayed. They started to rebuild. They set up temporary kitchens outside their damaged homes. They thought the worst was over. The calm before the storm. Then something terrified them. We don't know exactly what. Perhaps the wells dried up or sulfurous gas began to leak from the ground. But suddenly all reconstruction stopped. Tools were dropped. Paint pots were left open. The evacuation. This is the key difference. They had time. They took their gold. They took their jewelry. They took their families. They marched down to the harbor and boarded their massive fleet. They left the city empty, hoping to return when the mountain calmed down. They had no idea they were leaving forever. Chapter 3. The Day the Sky Fell. The eruption of Thera wasn't just a volcano, it was a planetary event. It is classified as a VEI 7 Volcanic Explosivity Index event. For context, it was 4 times bigger than Krakatoa. Phase 1. The ash fall. It started with a light rain of pumice. This covered the city, preserving the buildings. This is why the roofs didn't collapse immediately. Phase 2. The pyroclastic flows. Then the volcano collapsed. The magma chamber emptied, and the center of the island fell into the sea. This triggered pyroclastic flows, avalanches of superheated gas and rock moving at 100 miles per hour. These flows buried Akrotiri under 200 feet 60 meters of ash and rock. The heat was intense enough to carbonize food in the bowls, but the ash layer protected the frescoes from burning. The global impact. The ash cloud circled the globe. Tree ring data from California to Ireland shows a massive climate cooling event around 1627 BC. The sun was blocked out for months. Harvests failed in China. It was a nuclear winter. Chapter 4. The Mystery of the Missing Bodies. When Spiridon Marinatos began excavating in 1967, he expected to find bodies. He found the city. He found the beds. He found the pots. But the morgue was empty. The contrast with Pompeii. In Pompeii, people were trapped. In Herculaneum, they were found in the boat houses. In Akrotiri, nothing. The theory, the evacuation was successful. They got onto the ships. The problem, if they escaped, where did they go? A civilization as advanced as the Minoans should have resettled on nearby Crete or other islands. But we don't see a sudden influx of refugees in the archaeological record of Crete. We see destruction. The cliffhanger, if they didn't die in the city and they didn't successfully resettle, there is only one terrifying possibility left. They died in the process of escaping. Chapter 5. The Tsunami Theory, a Graveyard at Sea. The evacuation may have been their death sentence. The physics of the collapse. When the volcano's caldera collapsed into the sea, it displaced billions of tons of water. This created a mega tsunami. Simulations suggest waves up to 30 to 100 meters high raced across the Aegean Sea. The fate of the fleet. Imagine hundreds of ships, overloaded with refugees and gold, sitting just a few miles offshore watching their home burn. Then they see the wall of water coming. The evidence on Crete. On the nearby island of Crete, the Minoan capital, archaeologists found Minoan palaces destroyed at exactly the same time. They found seashells and marine debris high up in the hills, proof of the tsunami's impact. The conclusion, the people of Akrotiri didn't vanish into thin air, they vanished into the deep sea. The tsunami likely swallowed the entire fleet instantly. Their bodies and their treasures are likely lying on the floor of the Aegean Sea, buried under layers of silt. Chapter 6. The Atlantis Connection, Solving Plato's Riddle. You cannot talk about a technologically advanced island civilization destroyed by water and fire without using the A word, Atlantis. The Solon connection. Plato claimed his story came from the Athenian lawmaker Solon, who heard it from Egyptian priests. The Egyptians traded with the Minoans. They knew them as the Keftiu. Suddenly the Keftiu stopped coming. The Egyptians would have seen the ash cloud in the north. They would have recorded that a great island empire was destroyed in a single day and night. The parallels. Atlantis, concentric rings of land and water. Santorini, before the eruption, it was a round island with a central lagoon, concentric shape. Atlantis, advanced engineering and bull worship. Minoans, inventors of plumbing and famous for their bull-leaping rituals. The conclusion: Akrotiri is the best real-world basis for the Atlantis legend. Plato didn't make it up. He was remembering the tragic end of the Minoans. It is chilling to think that a city this advanced could be wiped out so completely that it became a myth. Do you think Akrotiri is the real Atlantis? Comment yes or no below. Chapter 7, The Modern Resurrection, and the New Threat. Today you can walk through the streets of Akrotiri. A massive bioclimatic roof protects the ruins. You can look through the windows of 3,600-year-old houses. You can see the clay pipes that carried their water. It is a haunting experience. It feels like the owners just stepped out for a moment. The new danger, but the story isn't over. Santorini is still an active volcano. The magma chamber is filling up again. In 2011, sensors detected the island rising. The beast that destroyed Akrotiri is only sleeping. Akrotiri teaches us a humble lesson. We build our skyscrapers and our technology thinking we have conquered nature. The Minoans thought the same. But all it took was one bad day for the earth to reclaim everything. The city is silent now, a beautiful tomb for a culture that reached for the stars, only to be buried by the stone. If the mystery of the city buried alive fascinated you, please like this video and share it with your fellow history hunters. And for more thrilling journeys into the world's most incredible lost civilizations, make sure you are subscribed to Adventure Hidden. Until our next expedition, watch the horizon and keep searching for the truth.